is finalized to develop companion pieces for parents, for example. So to develop like one-pagers that would be based on the information in the handbook, but more focused on parents and educating parents about what states and, what districts and schools are required to do under ESSA as far as stakeholder engagement goes at the local level. So I think there will be ongoing opportunities to provide input on those companion pieces.
Yeah, but this is the real piece here, and they don't have a youth piece. And I think for the school district, if we don't put it out there, they're not going to do it. You know, so the companion piece is definitely. She gave us a June 30th. You know, when we asked about, what was their turnaround timeline, and so I don't know how far beyond the 30th now that we're here today. This weekend. We can still be inside of that window. And that's why I'm saying with these young people that are here today, at least if we can start framing that conversation around what that piece could look like, then how we come back maybe in a week or so and talk about a real development of,
So I guess my follow-up comment question would be, this handle for meaningful stakeholder engagement after ESSA implementation districts and school leaders. So, background, folk came together to put this together. Educators, your chief council of chief officers for the state, each of the states. So is there any real expectation then that there will be any kind of student input or youth input into it? I mean, are they even looking for that?
Yeah, I think they will be. I think we can sell them on that, definitely, because it's not here. And when you look over here on the page that they've got contributors already, it's amazing that it wasn't thought of or not, But I think if we make the case that, for us, that is critical really to the whole process, even though you're saying this is for school districts, that's where it's got to start. Because if it doesn't start there, then they're not going to, even if we came up with something for parents and students to get engaged, it goes to a door or a wall that they don't open the door to because it's not in something like this. They'll take a document like that, oh, they say about parents and students got to be engaged at this level. So that's been the experience.
So in this booklet, the one that you just got a draft, on page 31, they want underrepresented youth with effective engagement strategies, and that's as far as they could get. So is that what you're saying, that that's where we can build that out?
Well, we could go ahead and get started. I think there are many opportunities in here. That's why I wanted us to, be able to have some time to go through and look at it.
Yeah, because it says highlight, engaging families and communities on underrepresented youth.
Yeah.
State to be determined.
So maybe we can.
What page are you reading from?
Page 31.
31. Middle of that
section, the purple kind of strip.
So if we could do something really good before the time, we might get our ideas.
Right. And I think they're open to that. I do think that they are open. By them coming and agreeing to come at this level, I think they are open, to making this a document and really engaging as many like us if they can. But I think that's why we need to look at it, because there are pieces in here that, like I said, I would have never thought of a line in here that says that at all. So as much of this as we could go through now, I think would be helpful. Okay, so you want to guide us through this?
Yeah.
So how are we gonna?
Well, I think for it to be helpful, we need to pretty much go through, the both. And if there's something that we want to add to these topics, we can do that. Okay. And even if, and like I said, knowing that we got that time tomorrow, so we can highlight it today, but if we want to add something to that, then we can start it.
Okay.
Okay.
So do I have to do it all myself, or you gonna help me?
So you're going to be easy tomorrow, okay? Remember.
Don't let her trick you.
I know, Joyce, but
It's Spain. She's
That's what
going
you told
to
me.
Spain.
That was just a thing.
I know, Joyce, but this is long, and
It is.
you gotta help me out with this.
Okay, well, then we'll look at that. Come on, let's move it. Let's start.
Okay, well, we can trade off.
Okay, you tell me where you want to go.
Okay. So just background information on this is that two nonprofit organizations, the Council of Chief State School Officers, which is an organization of state superintendents and partners for each and every child. They developed this handbook for meaningful stakeholder engagement. So we've been talking about meaningful stakeholder engagement at the state level. So we've talked a lot about that a lot today here in Mississippi, that Mississippi Department of Education need to meaningfully engage community stakeholders as they're developing their state plans. That's something that's required under the Every Student Succeeds Act for all states. But districts and schools, individual schools, also have obligations to engage parents and other community members as well. So, for example, when a school is identified for comprehensive support and improvement, so meaning that that school has been targeted as a low-performing school, the district needs to develop a comprehensive improvement plan, and community members and parents need to be part of that process. That plan needs to be based on a school needs assessment, and parents and community members need to play a role in that as well. And so this handbook, the purpose of the handbook is to provide guidance to district leaders and schools, outlining what requirements and obligations they have, and then to provide recommendations for how to meaningfully engage stakeholders in that process. So tomorrow, we will have a session facilitated by Partners for Each and Every Child. They've traveled to Mississippi to hear from all of you about what improvements should be made in the handbook. So we're just using this session to get familiar with the handbook. If there's anything that jumps out at you as things that you would want to flag during the session tomorrow, then we can discuss that. So we'll just kind of go through the different sections. And they have, they have been getting feedback on this document. This is a pretty early draft. So I believe tomorrow they will explain some of the feedback that they've already incorporated. So I think we can start with if you want to look at the executive summary, so there's the framing meaningful engagement, using guiding principles and 10 steps to engage on local planning. So there's the principles at the top. Principle 1, hold stakeholder engagement and the pursuit of equity and excellence as inseparable endeavors. Principle 2, include diverse groups of stakeholders with a commitment to engaging historically excluded voices. Principle 3, support stakeholder engagement that is well informed. Principle 4, focus on continuous improvement as an essential paradigm framework for engagement. Principle 5, seek to build consensus pragmatically. Effective collaboration doesn't always mean full consensus. So we have the 10 steps on the left, and then there's a checklist for engaging on local planning on the right.
Hold on a second, Liz, what page you on?
The executive summary.
It's on, this is what the page looks like.
Yeah, for some reason there's not page numbers on all the pages, but it's page 6. So you can take a look at that, the items on the checklist. If there's anything that jumps out as missing, that's something that we might want to flag.
Immediately, number 9 jumps out at me. Keep your team informed. For us, and I'll speak to how things work in Holmes County, we never know who the team is. What is the team? Who is the team? For example, one would think on one level, the P16 council may be the team. That's a community engagement piece. But the superintendent also has a team that's called the Superintendent Advisory Committee that she formed after the P16 council. So when you talk about teams, I'm never clear who the team is, because on one level, the team really should be the board making the policy, superintendent, administrators, parents, and students. So what's meant by team? I think that has to be really, really clear. Who is this team we're talking about? So that's the first thing that kind of jumps out of me. That there is that team becomes a moving target. And that's part of our challenge. I think somebody brought it up at the board meeting. We have this turnover, frequent turnover in low and failing districts. So we really don't have a team. The team looks very different every year. We cannot be successful if we keep changing the players and there is no real commitment to changing the quality of education in the district.
Right.
So that would be something I highlight. What do you mean by the team? We need to specify who is this team. When we talk about educational stakeholders, who's the real team?
Right, and remember, so this is targeted to districts and schools, so it's telling district and school leaders that they need to keep members of their team informed. So people within the district need to be informed, and and then on the checklist is telling them how to make sure that they're informed.
So I kind of piggyback on what's being said here, because when I talk to the superintendents, they're like, we have somebody assigned to that. So there is no team that they're actually reporting, they get to determine who they're reporting out to. So the ambiguity of that team, it needs to be leadership, chief staff, department heads, or whatever, because there's a lot of people that still don't know this is happening. It's in a direct correlation with their work. So I think you would say that the district would need to articulate who the team, or identify and articulate who the team is.
And again, it came up at the board meeting. The question about who is to apply for school improvement grants. You would think your Title I person, the federal person, should be doing that. But clearly in that room this morning, they're clear. It may not be that person. So I think we need to be clear, because there are some guidelines. When you get federal dollars, they lay out the guidelines of who should be on this team. So I think it does need to be articulated. So even for those of us who are doing this work, we know who the team is and who we should be bringing these concerns to. So.
Make a parent.
But I guess for me, then with that question, they're saying that is this for schools and whatever. If you're talking about stakeholder engagement, then who's going to tell them that, the stakeholders piece of this, if it's not incorporated in here, in terms of who should, know this handbook? Because if we don't know the handbook, then we don't know what the expectation is for the opportunities. And so that's the part, I guess, I'm concerned about, what this document is really going to do.
Well, remember, so if you want to look at the table of contents to see what's coming up, so the first part, which we're just in now, is the executive summary. Then part 1 is going to talk about school and school planning supported by new state systems. The second part is engaging around improvement strategy, and that's when it talks about things like a whole child approach, data and transparency, assessment, social emotional learning and discipline practices. And then getting into like different student groups, like early childhood education and students with disabilities. Then part 3 is about how to engage specific groups. So that's when you get into, I think that's obviously I think this whole handbook is of interest, but section 3 is really focused on like how to engage specific groups such as parents, families, guardians, and talking about the specific mechanisms that should be used to ensure effective and meaningful engagement. Then it's getting into allocating resources and consultation with stakeholders. Yeah, Marika.
So I think this also makes a lot of assumptions.
Quick question, does everybody have something to write with? Because everybody should be like making a note of like things that you want to raise tomorrow. Does everybody have something?
Do we have some white paper? Because we can just jot it down.
Yeah. Do you guys have pencils?
Do we have
Do you have pen?
chart paper?
Do you have paper?
Okay. My question about this is, this appears to make the assumption that these are very traditional school districts.
Sorry, go ahead.
this makes the assumption that these are very traditional school districts. We have school districts that are, you know, like charter schools. And so I think they need to explicitly say something about that, because some charter schools don't have teams, they're not involved. So I think it's important to articulate both traditional and charter education programs so that charter schools know they're accountable to this as well. Of course they do, but to articulate it.
So, anything else on the executive summary before we go to part one? So part one is school and, I'm sorry, so LEA, that's local education agency, which is basically the school district. So anytime you see LEA, just think school district. So LEA is school planning supported by new state systems. So we have the ESSA accountability opportunity, and it just gives like an overview of what's in this section. So I'm not going to read through this whole thing. We'll highlight, you know, the subcategories, and then you know, feel free to read through and see if anything you know, jumps out as you as being particularly strong, or something seems missing, something that needs to be modified. So state systems under ESSA, why local engagement. So it talks about you know, how ESSA requires engagement of local community stakeholders, and then district and school planning, engagement and action over the coming year and throughout implementation of ESSA. Districts and schools each play a vital role in ensuring educational equity for all students. Under ESSA, districts must engage in planning processes around school improvement, and then it talks about you know, where districts are required to engage stakeholders. So we talked about so there's, in addition to the state consolidated plans under ESSA, there's the consolidated LDA plan, where there'll be, each individual school district will have to develop a local consolidated plan for all Title I schools that the state will have to review.
That's
And
where
then
parents are supposed to be on those teams to do that, parent and community members, right?
sorry, just say that again.
Well, schools will be required to develop and implement site-specific plans. Can we say in here, and parents are to be part of the teams looking at these plans?
It's definitely a recommendation that we could make.
But there should be parents and students, because it's made about the student. Really, that's where your impact is going to come. So I think that students need to also be a part of it as well.
And then the comprehensive support and improvement plans, so that's what we just talked about. And then there's additional district planning as required. There could be some additional district planning as required by the state. So going beyond what ESSA requires, states might also have specific requirements around planning that districts have to comply with.
Excuse me, Liz, quick question. For this handbook, there's a question. Is MDE, is this gonna be presented to MDE for them to approve as part of the handbook? Or are we just gonna use this as a community resource, or both?
So CCSSO and Partners 4 are going to be distributing this handbook. So it could be used by, so their primary targets are districts and schools, but it could also be used for states as well. But there's no approval, you know, a state wouldn't have to approve the handbook. This is like nonprofit organizations who've developed this handbook as a tool for district schools and also states. So they're getting input from other nonprofit organizations, and now, you know, tomorrow will be an opportunity for them to hear from community stakeholders. But it's not like a government document that needs to go through like a formal approval process.
And so that's why we're looking at it now, because we don't know what their, you know, their goal, how extensive it is, because you're saying, can we use it And it should be something that we probably could, you know, but that's why we're looking at it now, to figure out how useful it can be. Because then we're gonna produce it anyway. And we just wanna make sure that it's not something out there that will hurt the work that we've done around community engagement, that doesn't speak to real community engagement. And, you know, if we want to make some impact on it, then I think that question and other questions, I think we gotta put it out there, because that's where it is, it's still developmental.
So would you submit it or as a resource to communities and districts? Would you try to funnel it or channel it through them, or?
At the end of the day, I think so, and that's why I guess my concern is that they're saying for this document, it's really about schools, districts, and whatever. That's the old model, you know, that it's just for them, and it's not for community, so we're bringing community in after the fact. And I think this document, it should be one that is talking about community engagement with the community,
Right.
you
So-
know, on the front end.
So
Go
it
ahead,
does talk about community engagement, but, and I think some people came in a little bit later. But I think this document is not something that most parents are gonna wanna read through.
Right.
It's not. So there needs to be, I think it's important, like, just like, somebody was talking about we have like our own ESSA resources. There's like the letter that we sent to Mississippi Department of Education, that's 7 pages, it's pretty dense. That's not something that we would give to a parent necessarily. And then we have other resources, 1 pages for parents that in, you know, easy to understand language, not, you know, jargon that parents can't understand, but like easily accessible information in like a concise format that busy parents can quickly read and digest. It makes sense to have content that is targeted for different groups. So, you know, the purpose of this is to inform districts and schools of, you know, the requirements that they have in terms of stakeholder engagement, and then giving them guidance around different strategies that they can use to ensure that that engagement is effective, including, you know, and we'll get to the section on engaging different groups like parents, community members. They have a section on engaging disengaged youth, which we know that needs to be built out because it's only talking about a subset of youth, which all youth should be engaged in the process. And then they, Partners for Each and Every Child, which is one of the nonprofits that's developing this handbook, has talked about wanting to develop companion pieces that would be targeted to different audiences. So there could be one for parents that would, you know, be more for parents' needs in a shorter document that would really break down you know, what they should be expecting their districts and schools to do in terms of engaging them, as, you know, what they can push their schools and districts to do.
So I have I guess another question in terms of that. We have a P16 Community Engagement Council handbook that kind of lays out a lot of this, how you engage parents and stuff. I'm wondering how much of that can we dovetail into this, because when we've been meeting in some of the meetings with MDE, because they already have an established accreditation standard for the P16 Council, we were asking them to insert the P16 Community Engagement Council manual in there. And it engages, it touches all segments of the community, students, the parents, the community, faith-based, and it's a process how you go about putting that council together. And then the council in terms, like Ellen is saying, what that council should be doing, and that's why we got a little, we don't have a misunderstanding. I think we're trying to figure out what is the best route for us to take, because we've been working through the P16 council process for a number of years, and it took us about 1.5 years to actually write that manual for that process, and they've been implemented at most in school districts, and we thought that would be a great vehicle for the implementation of ESSA. And so I'm just trying to figure out where and how we can fit that in, or we need to use that as another resource.
And before you respond to that, let me ask a question. Commissioner Ringo asked a few minutes ago. So the council, let me show that right, council of chief state officers, what's their significance in their role in ensuring the education at the state level? Because when I hear the chief state council, whatever they're called,
ZCSS.
okay,
That's-
I'm thinking somehow they're part of the governor's, any state governor's leadership process.
Dr. Wright is there are 50
Chief.
of them. The
Okay.
state chiefs are the ones that are on that.
Okay, so it's Dr. Wright then, that's a
She's
part
the
of
vice
one of
president,
those
she's gonna
chief
be the
pres-
chair next year, so we've got high representation.
Okay, so then that's why I asked the question, because if this is the chief education officer of the state, and Wright is the chairperson next year, and she's a part of this council, then this is a document that they're also looking at that level. Am I to understand that? And so, is this a document that's likely to be approved as a policy at the state level, if it is coming down through the Council of Chief State Officers?
More of a practice, I believe. I don't think it'll be a policy.
It'll just be a resource.
Recommended practice.
A recommended practice.
Right.
So, and so there's some requirements under ESSA that this talks about, but this isn't creating new policies, it's just reinstating what the federal laws says.
But this is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization made up of chief educational officers all over the nation, but they're not, it's
Part of
not
our
a
board
government.
members.
Right.
But then there's like the nonprofit staff that aren't
It's like a
members of-
professional association.
But they're not,
Yeah.
it's not any kind of government entity,
It's not a government
nonprofit,
entity,
nonprofit.
that's right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The only actual issue that I take with this document so far is that it is extremely vague. And it's almost like putting the cart before the horse, because most people don't really know what you have an idea of what your ESSA plans are looking like and shaping up to be. And for communities like Mississippi who've actually been engaged inside of helping to create these, we can come out with some ideas and say, oh yeah, these are things will work in Mississippi. But I'm just saying, just reading through it and even scanning it, it's like extremely vague. It'll be very difficult for you to hold people accountable for implementation of this particular component, but there's not a lot of nuts and bolts on it. And then just even some of the basic stuff that I'm looking at, like there's no glossary of terms or even a resource page where we could even just state by state list of organizations that have helped to work on the ESSA implementation and implementation. I see that they had like a list of national organizations that were a part of this handbook, but it's like, all right, so when I get to the back of this book and I want to know specifically inside of Mississippi, who can I call on in my community that could even break this down to me or help me with our ESSA plans to come to the table to help with this? Where are those organizations, or how do I find that particular resource? And that would be very interesting, since these are the chief executive officers doing this, to see what community-based organization they would even be willing to list as partners, or as resources inside of those states. Will we even make those lists? Is a real real question for me, right? Even if we're going to engage in doing this work inside of this space, like where are their heads at about really and truly saying that in Greenville for a better Greenville would be a resource inside your community. Knowledge Jenkins would be a resource inside your community. So how do we even start to tackle that? Because and then I've gotten over to like, when we talk about engaging with specific groups, there's literally one paragraph here about rural communities, right? So, and we all know rural communities are a bugaboo within themselves because of the cultures inside of those communities and those different identities. So to say this is one, just to make sure that they know that these are one or two, that's page like 29. There's literally one paragraph. And then when I keep seeing, even throughout the entire document, folks are using like all these different acronyms for everything. It's like, yeah, if you know what that is, that's cool, but there's no way for folks to even read through without wondering, okay, what is this? What is this? What does that mean?
So one of the reasons we push back in terms of this document and saying that we want to be engaged in it is for all the things that you just said. So knowing that now, then how do we shape it? CCSSO, I think they are partners with Partners for. I don't believe that they are actually engaged in the writing of this document itself. They are trusting partners for it to do this, whatever it is that they're doing, and then they're gonna sign off on it. And so what we're doing is really an accountability piece, is saying that, okay, if you all are gonna be a partner, then we need y'all to be accountable for what they produce. And so that's where we come in. So it doesn't think, by no stretch of the imagination, do we need to assume that they get it. So all that stuff that you said, it could end up getting printed out like this. So we have the opportunity now to fill in all those things that you just observed, so that this document don't get printed and look good, and then there's nothing in it, because it will do that. Bro, go ahead.
So you're saying if we need a glossary added to it for these anachronisms, if people wanna be partners, those are things we need to lift up and ask.
That's what we need. Whatever we're thinking today, then that needs to be the question. That's why we're here at the table today, to let them know what we think this document needs to look like, okay? And so if that's what if we need a glossary with organizations that have the input, and you're saying that we even need to know from state to state, I don't know how, how we can do that. We might, we can figure it out though, but if you're saying that that's something that's needed, then how do we support them in making it happen? If this is a living document especially. Go ahead, Mariko.
I was just gonna say that maybe we should talk to each of the state departments, because they do have the lists of partners that they've been working with.
So that's a good thing. We can, and we can reference that. That's a good way to do it. That every state department got a list of organizations that they've been working with, or, so we wouldn't have to come up with the list, because this is from state to state, not just to Mississippi. But I think whatever we're talking about happening in Mississippi, then definitely it's probably something that all communities need. So that's a good way to do that, that glossary and saying refer to your volunteers in your state. Brenda?
Yeah, I want to build on something you just said and the others have said. So one, going back to what Liz said earlier, so this handbook, the audience for this handbook is schools and school districts, right? So it wasn't written necessarily for communities, right? And in particular, grassroots community. This audience is geared toward the education agencies, okay, if you will. So that's one. Two, I want to go back to something Dr. Oakley said this morning in terms of how people can engage. And one of the ways he said at the local level, which speaks to a point, I forgot her name, Marissa just said in terms of going to the states, right? Because the states have the list of organizations. And going to what Ashley said, if we want to know more about our particular state, because as Joyce said, this wasn't designed toward Mississippi or just one state. It's meant to serve as a general resource guide or tool that schools and school districts can use if they so choose, because it's not going to be mandatory. And so to me, that speaks to just like other resources we might have in our armor, right? Marilyn mentioned the P16 manual. Other people may have resources. I think what we have to do is glean from this document, as with any document, things that we think might work well in our state and in our local schools and school districts. And then we design in a more user-friendly manner for our communities to engage them with the process. I think on the positive side of this document, I just scanned through it. I will put on the table, it's very hard to sit in a space with a document for the first time and then read it and know what it is and glean out some concrete specifics. Right. And I think that's what we're kind of struggling with here, because really to make informed decisions about some of this stuff in here, you really need to read it and internalize it, synthesize it, right? And then say, well, oh, this missing from that. This what was strengthen that for, remember the audience, this what was strengthen this for local schools and school districts, because that's the audience this was designed for. So for me, I think we should really think of it
as a resource tool and then go through it and see, oh, what are they saying inside of this document that would be helpful for local schools and school districts? Because as I scan through the document, I do see where they are encouraging local schools and school districts to engage a diverse representation of the community as stakeholders inside of their local decision making. And that's what we want, but in order for us to make some specific recommendation, I think it's just only fair that we have ample time to really go through, because what you don't want to do is make a type of recommendation that's, I don't know the term for right now, but I'm just saying inappropriate, because you really had gone through and understood what was in it, if that makes sense. But not having gone through it, just thinking about it, when someone creates a resource tool or guide, you know, it may not fit everybody, and everything in it may not fit every situation. But if you act as a sponge, things in it that you think will work for your local school and your local school district and even your community, then those are the things you use from the resource guide. Just because everything in it, for example, may not work for every situation, doesn't make the resource guide a bad resource guide, right? But you take and glean what you can from it, and then you create what you need to create that you feel will work best for your community. I just wanted to put that on the table because it's kind of difficult for us to make specific recommendations at this time, not having really gone through, you know, this document in a real effective manner.
And so that's how this all came about. You know, they reached out to Liz to go to a meeting, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And so then they wanted DSC to be on the call. You know, they wanted to do this on the phone. So all that you're saying does not work. And so hindsight, you know, lets us know without hindsight that we should have been engaged in a process much earlier that was more detailed than this. And so it brought us to a place that we did get to meet with them on, I think it was last week or the week before. But even with that, it was only an hour-and-a-half session. Same thing, you know. And so once again, I just pushed harder to say, like you're saying, we don't want to sign off on something that we cannot stand by. But at the same time, if there is an opportunity for us to have real input, then what does that look like? So that's how we ended up getting them, because we knew we were going to be here this weekend, to get them to come in for whatever amount of time, and they really did commit to whatever amount of time tomorrow that we think we need to do this. I get what you're saying, and I do totally support that. So another question for us then is, do we want to have any input in this document, or do we feel that it's just not a timely situation that we could do it? Now, one of the things they was telling us about their timeline, I said was something like June 30th, you know, but they were willing to extend it a little bit. But we even know that they, you know, it's not going to be a long timeline, because we know that state plans got to get out in September. I mean, you know, going to be turned in September. So if this is going to be something that works inside of that kind of timeline, how can we ask them? And I think that's another question that we can, if we are committed to doing something with this document in a real way. So if we go through this now, and we may not get through all of it today, but I think what you all have said, that you're looking at it, there are some possibilities here. Maybe in the conversation tomorrow, we can be a little more detailed in terms of areas that we have questions and concerns. But the final question would be, if we're not satisfied with our engagement tomorrow, then are we willing to come back and do something prior to whatever their deadline is, to have some real time to go through it? And what does that look like? So that's a question on table, and I think that's pretty much what everybody is looking at for the various questions you have, is how do we engage in this document that we don't have a lot of time to figure it out? Go ahead, Merlin.
So, I guess my question is then, would it make sense then, I know we started a conversation on the Dignity in School call, and that didn't go well in terms of trying to go through the document. Would it make sense then that we take the document, read it today, and come back with questions tomorrow? Since the people that, the authors, so to speak, will be here tomorrow, we put whatever input we want then, and then if there's anything else in terms of folks wanting to add later, we figure out a process where we can get it to Liz or send it to whomever. Because I think inside of our community, we need to meet with some of our administrators
Exactly.
and talk to them and family members that are connected with them to get their input and see what their thinking is on it, and then do it that way, because it's kind of like Brenda's saying, and Liz saying, it's difficult to read it and go through it now while we're trying to read it and decipher it all at the same time. And I know it's not a big document to me, but we have to read a lot of stuff, but it is kind of lengthy, and I think that maybe if we take the time to read through it this afternoon, tomorrow we come back with every question. And then I would like for us to think about, what about us putting forward the P16 Community Engagement Council as the community engagement piece? Because if this is gonna be used strictly for the district employees and the leaders, I think we need a community piece also. So we can't find a space to fit it in here. We already have a community-based process engagement piece that we're already working on.
And I think that's good as a toolkit, because we can also show legislation that was in place. So if districts need a legislative piece, then we can share what that looks like. Go ahead, Brenda, and then Marika.
I just add an addendum to what Marilyn said, not just put forward the P16 Council Manual as a community engagement resource, but put forth that with other best practices from other people in this room who have best practices inside of community engagement. So, in other words, we can very likely, once we pull everybody's piece together, put forth a total new community engagement resource guide. But I think it should be representative of everybody who's participated in here, best practices and learnings around how do you engage communities effectively and efficiently inside of education policy and decision making with the local school. So I just wanted to open it up a little bit more so that everybody in this room who's engaging in work and who's engaging in bringing parents and students together can participate in whatever those best practices are.
So I'm hearing you recommend that we still continue to just go through this as much as we can right now with just an eye to see, so that tomorrow, going back through it with them, maybe we have questions that came up today that we would like to get answered, but it won't be our first looking at it tomorrow. At least we would have an opportunity to just go through it and not necessarily, you may be able to make some recommendations, like I think you have made some recommendations that we want to consider, like if the State Department's looking at their people who could be resource volunteers or whatever. The P16 Council, along with other best practices, we definitely want to lift that up. So if we could, then let's go through then, if we can, topic by topic, and just see what's in them. And that's not meaning we've got to read it word for word, but even looking at the topics, something in your mind may come out. Is it there? And if it's not there, then it needs to be there.
So can I ask a question?
Process question.
So I think I heard from a couple people that it might be more useful for them to be able to read through this on their own. So I could see this going a couple different ways. So, because I know that's how I process information best. I know everybody's different though. So we could do a mixture of things. Like for people who just want to take a moment to be able to just like read through this on their own and process it, like I would welcome people to do that. That's what works best for me. If there's people who maybe want to get with a partner or with a small group, but I think maybe with like one other person to like read through and discuss, like maybe some people can pair off and do that. So maybe there's like individual work, and then there's like partner work, and then if some people want to, as like a small group, go through it together, we can do that. And I'm happy to facilitate a conversation with the small group. But it sounds like some people would rather just have some time to really read through it on their own, and then maybe some people would want to get together with a partner and read through it.
So I just think that we've dedicated, this time for as much as we can, and people can definitely do that. I know some people will, but I also think this has been a great opportunity, and I don't want to make any assumptions though that that it will, will happen in that way. It might, but if we just use some of this time to at least get an idea for everybody, And then those who want to do it, that what you recommended as the other option, definitely will happen. Marika, you have anything?
Just a couple things.
Sure.
One is I noticed in part 4, it's not completed yet, and that's around the budget.
Okay.
And so we have an opportunity to weigh in on how folks and communities would be able to think about what needs to be included in
Okay.
here. The other part is they talk about how to engage with specific groups, and one thing I think they're overlooking is the fact they distinguish rural and other, and I think they're assuming that these are large metropolitan school districts that we're talking about. The majority of our schools districts in the state, they're not that sophisticated. They might have one elementary school, they might have one middle school, and one senior high, and so the glossary and all those pieces, the folks that are on the school board, I think they need this broken down a little further, because this is still technical for school districts. And if you don't have somebody that's the policy person, if you don't have somebody that's doing all those pieces, it's just gonna be another piece of paper on the shelf. Then the other question, they have these questions for all of us to answer on the bottom that are highlighted in yellow. And so I'm also thinking this might be an opportunity, because I'm like looking at part 2 on page whatever it is, 15. And it says like, what additional opportunities for social emotional learning should we point to? So like, you know, the fact that it needs to be culturally responsive, not just a castle model, which would be very prescriptive. So it might be that we could break down the questions and divide them and talk about what some of these pieces might be with their questions, or that's how we kind of look at it. But this is a very, it's supposed to be community for districts, but it's still very technical, because I'm thinking about my school board members, I'm thinking about the principals, and again, many of them are not aware of this, and so this is handing them a guide to something they're not familiar with. Is there a video that goes with it?
Like the accompanying video.
I'm just saying.
So then maybe there needs to be even some companion pieces for schools and districts to someone.
This assumes that districts have a lot of resources to go through all these pieces. And my school districts that I work with do not. They don't have the technical capacity, and they don't have the awareness of the thing itself capacity.
One quick thing that I just wanted to mention, because somebody was talking about different resources, so I know that that is one thing that they do want. They specifically said that they wanted feedback on, because there's a couple places where it highlights different resources, and so they want to know, are those the right resources? Are there other resources that should be included in the handbook? So if you know of a really good resource that you want your schools or your districts to have access to, and it's not in here, then they want to know that.
No, I guess I process very different. I've got to read this. And the other thing that, and I am going to take the young people to leave, because I told them at 3:30 we were going to do some other things, but Kamisha will be here. But the other thing that this really, for me, kind of gives me a framework to work from. I immediately went to the section where they talk about rural communities, and for me, I'm really thinking about how this document can be utilized in our school district. I mean, and you know, I think it's a worthwhile document. I'm not sure what all is in it, but I would like to have some input, but I can't give that input just going through this document right now. I need time to step away in the process. I process very different. And I did negotiate with my young people. We would be here until about 3:30, you know, and I would take them someplace. That was our agreement today. So, Kamisha will be here. We're going to look at this because I think it is important that we have a voice inside of this for local school districts. We'll do small groups and work with to have some input.
So now, will you all be here tomorrow at all?
No,
Okay.
because we're out of here Sunday, so it's really kind of.
So you can email feedback to me if you do have a chance to go through it and have recommendations.
Tomorrow,
Okay.
listen to the discussion as well. And then report that back to us.
I have a question, Lee. This document here, this is basically urban area.
Is that what it's targeted?
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be. I think it should.
What it
be.
feels like.
But what I'm talking about, even when you say rural, I look at ours as being different from how other people define rural areas. So that's the reason that I asked.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said, I looked at it that if someone said it was something with rural in here, but how is it to me that they define rural from the way in which we look at rural? Though, you know, so that's right there within itself to me, and poses a question, is this, and that's the reason I asked, was it urban? You know, because when you're talking about resources.
Use our time moving forward, but also setting up a process where we can extend our time in terms of people wanting to have more time, and let's figure out how much more time so we can ask for that from them about how much more time can we have. But we could definitely begin to look at the questions that's being asked and the framing of the questions. Because under these topics like this, what you said, the whole child approach, the question down here that they are asking is, what information about Title IV's 21st century opportunities and others will be important to include here? And I think in a lot of ways, with the opportunities that the 21st century brings is actually looking at the recreation centers in communities and other nonprofit organizations in communities as those places that house those programs. So I don't know how that would fit into that question, but I think for us, when you talk about the whole child, how do we incorporate the whole child in terms of recreational opportunity, but in terms of being able to build programs in the community through the resources that's made available, you know, through 21st century. The other question is, what other federal funding opportunities or state infrastructure, non-US ed, should be referred to here, such as nutrition, ACA, and once again, what does ACA stand? What does it stand for? ACA stand for? But it goes back to, and I think some of the organizations are doing work now around healthy, you know, healthy communities and doing the gardening and doing these things around the nutrition. So I don't know if this is that document, but definitely how do we begin to say if that needs to be inside of here, you know? So, yes.
Is there any way, like, they can include like diagrams of, okay, so the heading of each chapter, like so part 2, engaging around improvement strategy. Is there any way like a diagram or picture could be put at the top to like show what exactly that means before they go through it?
Okay.
You know, just like an illustration, just like something that pops out, something that you can look at.
Infograph.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. And the one that you gave for an example was which chapter?
I was
I know.
on part 2, so I just read that.
Yeah, part 2, like engaging around improvement strategies and having an infogram that speaks to what's in this chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good recommendation, because yeah, they do have, you can tell because they do have pictures in here, so that's something that they can do, and just making that as a recommendation, then they could definitely look at it. Because I think that goes back to what Marika's saying, in some of our communities, a visual is going to mean a lot, you know, understanding and knowing the purpose of what that particular chapter is. So that's something we can make a recommendation.
That's
you
a
know,
really
too.
good idea. Really, that's very good.
So has anybody looked over any other part that that you might want to think about? I mean, we can go through the questions at the bottom whether we answer them now or not, but that'll give us an idea of what they're expecting. Brenda, I think Brenda was saying, or you said that even with what you have looked at, and this is the question that we do have, is this a document that we feel is workable? And I'm not going to say doable, but workable. And if so, then we need some time, and I'll let them know tomorrow. So I guess, let me see who all will be here tomorrow. That's the other question. By show of hand, who all will be here tomorrow, okay? Good, okay. Very good. So we'll have a representative group tomorrow based on what we're hearing from you all today. Let's look at part 2, data and reporting.
Joyce, before you do that,
Sure.
I just wanted to do a time check. I heard that the young people were supposed to be leaving at 3:30, it's 3:34, so.
Yeah. Ellen stepped out, but I think she's gonna come back here, you can tell them to come on here. And then Liz is gonna be leaving no later than 4, so we are gonna wrap this up. That's as long as we're gonna be here, really. But I just want us, like you were saying, I just want you that we didn't need, and you see why we didn't need to come in tomorrow like this, because we would have had the same concerns and questions. So I'm comfortable with where we are now. If you get a chance tonight to look over it, develop some questions, develop some ideas, and even if we stop right now, that will give people to relieve themselves, you know, to kind of relax, step back, and then tomorrow, just look at it and formulate some questions about what our next steps need to be. because I think that's gonna be important. Nita, go ahead.
Tonight, as everyone's reading it, I think we should create a list of other resources, like your P16 guide is best practices, and you might not have to explain all of it here. Like you could just say, you know, one of the ways some states are doing this is the P16, and then you could have your guide down there with an explanation from it. And y'all have probably developed all kinds of resources that if we just think of them and make sure that we get them in.
And we're sure that, I'm sure, your DSCs have probably a piece that we can refer back to in the toolkit, you know, that can help in terms of parental engagement or family engagement.
So Joyce, real quick, I have a kind of crazy question, because I was really struck by the lady on the school board saying that she ain't really read this whole document. So that is completely, I know, right, like, and I can understand that that doesn't happen. But, so if we're asking our families to kind of go through all of this stuff, and I know we have some things in the toolkit, the various checklists, right? But I'm wondering, like, as the young lady was talking about the whole child, can we maybe put something together like that that'll be easier for families, like, to look at, and you should.
You came late, Gina.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did come late. That's just.
Yeah, so
She is one to do it, Gina. She's been waiting on that. She got you there. She is so wrong.
I'm sorry, I had a request that I forget. I already said I'm not talking about because I'm gonna have the biggest problems in where I'm at.
no worries, but that is something that, so Kata is gonna be facilitating the session tomorrow from Partners Forge. That's something that she brought to me after we met with her last week. She said that, you know, Partners Forge would be willing. Okay. But she said they'd be willing to develop like materials that would be like better targeted for parents, more easily accessible to parents.
Yes, and I think tomorrow in that conversation, that may be some of the biggest takeaways is what are those tools that need to be, you know, developed, and we do have some ideas about that as well. Okay. Okay, so there's a question on the table, and I don't think so. So what we're gonna do is, if it's okay with everybody, what we will do is, because you have an idea about how this document is written, we're gonna go ahead and stop now, because we just wanted to introduce it anyway. And then we'll start back in the morning, with this document with Kata. And the way that the shape that it's going to take is, it's gonna be some of these same questions that she will be able to respond to, but much of it will be process questions in terms of how do we move forward in assistance with developing this document and what the timeline looks like. But I think also how much can we engage in. Go ahead, Marika. Oh no. And so Liz was saying, do people want to have enough time tonight to look over and start later tomorrow? I'm like, no. We want to start a time enough tomorrow, and then we can get out early tomorrow. We want to do that, but I don't think people want to start later tomorrow, because this has been a great weekend, and I really appreciate you all being so committed to this process. I really do. I really do. So I think we can do that. So thank you, Liz, so much. You know, we're gonna miss you tomorrow, but we got Courtney over there. And she'll be here tomorrow. But this is gonna look like whatever we need it to look like tomorrow. Everybody, let's have the rest of the evening. Dinner is still in the restaurant. We'll do a tab, you know, like we did before. They started at 5.
What time is that?
So you're gonna be back after that,
Then we can go around the table so they'll have a feel of who we are in the room. And then you all can go through, you know, your packet of information that you have for us. And I think much of the information that we'll be getting throughout the process, where you all can interject, you know, important pieces that you think we need to know. Okay. Alrighty then. So we'll go ahead. And I think because all of us know everybody, and we'll be giving people time to get in, we'll start with introductions and then come back to y'all. Okay, so we'll start over here. Let's start over here. Well, start with you, Al. We'll start with you and come back around.
Sure.
Okay.
My name is Al White. I'm with Action Communication Education Reform and also part of the Mississippi Delta Catalyst Roundtable.
And Kelly, let me just say this, because we all are from, most of us from Mississippi, and this is a Mississippi process supported by DSC. Give them an idea about how far you are from here, you know,
Sure.
from Jackson, yeah. Area where we're looking at.
So I am approximately an hour and a half drive, 90 miles, midpoint between here and Memphis, Tennessee, I-55.
All right.
My name is Alan Carter. I'm from Tonga next U-turn.
Okay, and you're in Tonga,
Yeah.
Mississippi, okay.
My name is Jamie Dunn, U-intern. Tonga is at 200 miles away.
Okay, 200, and they're right at Memphis almost. How far y'all from Memphis?
205 miles.
Y'all trying to find
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes. You say what now?
Do it.
About
I'm
20
getting out
minutes.
here. I'm thinking of you. You want mine? What you want mine? I'm sorry, do that again for the camera, please.
My name is Carnisha Terry. I'm with Temple Teens in Action Youth Leader. I'm a student at Toulouse College, my senior year.
Go ahead.
My name is Ashley McKay. I serve as the Executive Director of Tunica Teens in Action out of Tunica, Mississippi. We are just about the tip top of the Delta, tip top of the state. About 20 minutes south of Memphis, 210 miles away from Jackson.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah. I'm Nita Rudy, the Executive Director of Parents for Public Schools. It's a national organization with 16 chapters in 12 states, and its national offices in Jackson.
Good morning. I am Diana Fremont Foster from Grenada, Mississippi, which is near where Al lives. I'm 106 miles. He got it just a little bit.
I'm not in Grenada.
We're both. I'm really the halfway mark between Memphis and Jackson, Interstate 55. I serve. I'm employed as a community organizer with Southern Echo, which is a leadership development organization here in Jackson, located here in Jackson. Work around the state and other regions as well across the nation. I'm also the director of a local organization, Activists with a Purpose, part of the Mississippi Delta Capitalist Roundtable, and part of Dignity in School.
Y'all encourage each other on that stuff, but I got over rolling.
You're skipping us, right?
Yeah, skip to all come back to you.
My name is Ramona Taylor-Wiggins, and I am the Director of Resource Development for Southern Echo. And I'm fairly new to Mississippi. I relocated here to join Southern Echo from St. Louis. And it's just great. I just love Mississippi, and I love Southern Echo, and I love the round table, and I love the great work that we do. We do phenomenal work.
I'm Gina Womack. I'm the Executive Director and Co-Founder of Families and Friends of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children, and we're a statewide membership-based organization that does end mass incarceration and stopping school incarceration.
I'm Joyce with Citizens for a Better Greenville, and I am about what? Is this for reimbursement purposes? You didn't say that. You're really not far. How far are you from here?
About 150 miles.
Yeah, just
167 miles.
Okay. So I am about, I think about 129 miles is what from the airport here. But I'm on the river, okay, so on the Mississippi River, we're right there. Arkansas is just right there, the bridge connects with Greenville. Right, yeah, we're gonna talk about the bridge. And then from Memphis, I usually say between Jackson and Memphis, but we're about, oh my God, 3 hours from Memphis, I believe, or a little more from Memphis. So I'm with Dignity in Schools campaign, but also a member of the Capitalist Roundtable.
Good morning. My name is Linda Reed. I am with
Patterson Education Fund Program Manager, and I'm organizer for Parent Education Organizing Council in Patterson, New Jersey. And I'm a long way.
All day long to get here.
But, and I'm with Dignity in School and Journey for Justice.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Betty Petty. I'm a senior organizer with Southern Echo. I've been with Southern Echo 22, 23 years. And I am also the executive director of a local organization that is called Sunflower County Parents and Students Organization. And as I would always say, in the heart of the Delta. I'm right there in the center part of the Delta, the heart of it, of Indianola. And I am basically from 1 hour and 40 minutes to maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 hour and 40 minutes to 2 hours, causing on my distance that I have to come from Indianola here to Jackson. So I had an early start this morning.
Wow, early riser.
Yes.
Good morning, my name is Malika Pfefferkorn, and I came all the way from Mississippi. I'm from Minnesota. I just forget sometimes. I am the Director of Black Male Achievement for the Minnesota Education Equity Partnership and the Solutions Not Suspensions campaign. And I am about maybe a 2-hour flight.
Oh,
It's not direct, is it?
No, but I'm only counting airtime.
Where in Minnesota?
Twin Cities.
Twin Cities. I was just in Minnesota.
Yes, I actually live in Brooklyn Park, which is now the first majority people of color city in the state.
wow, that is something for that
Bad
state.
news happened.
Yeah, the millennial.
We were not shocked.
Yeah,
Good morning, my name is Cameron Walker with Racial Justice Now out of Dayton, Ohio. I am also Ohio, Midwest. Also DSC Federal Liaison.
Good morning, my name is Daquan Harrison from Student Advocacy Center in Michigan. Out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Federal Liaison for DSC.
What's your name again?
Daquan.
Don't know where to place myself right now, but I would say I'm a public educator. I'm here with my wonderful mother-in-law.
Hey,
So I guess I can.
She's organizing her own family.
Might be a requirement to get in.
I'm sorry, I'm Tony Kimball. I'm sorry, I left that out. I'm Tony Kimball, public educator. I guess I would include myself with activists with a purpose, so excited to be here.
Thank you. Okay. We had someone else to come in?
Yes.
Two people.
Hi, I'm Central Lewis with Nani Jenkins Family Center from Durant, Mississippi. I live in Greenwood, equity organizer, a federal liaison. Good to be here.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melvin Young. I'm with Tunica Teens in Action out of Tunica, Mississippi, and I'm happy to be with you all this morning.
I'm happy to be with you too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our guests, and what they'll do is give a brief introduction of who they are, and we're going to just try to see the best way to move forward with this, strictly about figuring out the best way to maneuver this document that we want to make sure that we have some type of meaningful input. And I really appreciate you all agreeing, just in a week's notice, all of this stuff all of this weekend came together like in a week. So we got to move with us because it worked. Yeah, it was to our advantage for you all. If you see the people that are here, you realize for them to have been able to stay an extra day just to do this, it was just amazing. Thank you all for accommodating us. That's our first step in this process, that you all are willing to accommodate us to participate. So go ahead and get started by introducing yourselves, and we can figure out how to move through the document.
George, can we do Rachel real quick?
Oh yeah, Rachel just came in, definitely.
Good
Yeah.
morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Mays, Southern Echo, Jackson, Mississippi, Executive Director.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is, just before we get started, just had a request, and we always like to honor at least this request anyway, to get started with reflections or innovation, invocation at least. Betty, would you do that for us? Just do a quick prayer.
Let us bow our heads, please. Oh, gracious and humble Father, as we come before you this morning, Lord, we want to come thanking and praising you, Lord, for all things. Lord, we want to thank you for how you have awakened us this morning, how you watched over us last night through the storm, brought us here safely this morning to our destination. We want to thank you for the ones that is gathered here, Lord, to learn the more information that we need in order to go back in our communities and be that successful community that you're looking for. We are asking that you continue to lead and guide us in the directions in which you would have us to go. These and all blessings in Jesus' name do we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that request.
Thank
Okay,
you.
ladies, so it's on you. Oh, we just had one more person to come in. Come on, join us at the table. You'll see the seats. Some kids right now. Yeah.
And introduce yourself.
One of our youth stars here. She has grown. This girl started as a little girl. And now she's developing such a leader. So I just have to say that. I don't see it enough.
Introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Kanisha Smith. I work with Knowledge Jenkins Family Center as the youth coordinator. And like Ms. Joyce said, I've been involved with social justice and community organizing since I was knee-high.
Yeah. Okay. And we got Courtney. Courtney, introduce yourself while you just doing that.
Hi, I'm Courtney Taylor, and I currently work as a policy and research associate for the NAACP Legal Parents and Educational Fund.
Okay, we got one more, and I really think this is great, because I think she may be the last person that I had seen come. Come on, you get to the table, we got a seat for you up here. Yeah. So this, look how he grinned out. He give his own self away. Now you all know that's his wife. Like the man was on the set. That's not grinning all out. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's what he's facing. He was saying that he was here with his mother-in-law. He was here with his mother-in-law. So when you came in, I was gonna tell you that's the reason. But he gave himself away. He just grinning on your butt. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ewan Nikki Kimball, educator, Grenada, Mississippi, Coffeyville.
What's up? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Kada Williams, and I am a program director with Partners for Each and Every Child. And Sophie, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Sophie Green, and I work with Kiddo Partners for Each and Every Child.
So half of our team, Sophie Green. Half of our team, I come here from DC. I grew up in Chicago, but I came here from DC. Sophie flew in from California. So again, we're really excited to be here today to talk through this document and really get as much of the feedback that you have as possible on it. Just super briefly, because I know Joyce wants us to get straight into the document. This is part of what we see as a 3-part or more sort of series to support local school districts and school leaders in their implementing their engagement responsibilities under the Every Student Succeeds Act. So back in December, we came out with, we released guidance that what kind of set the context for what's required in the law for local school districts and school leaders. We actually worked with a number of Mississippi stakeholders, including Earl Watkins. I don't know, Joyce, if he shared that with you, but contributed to that document. That was sort of a national in-scope document. We then decided that we wanted to do a second piece of this, which is what we're going to talk about today, the handbook, which allows us to kind of go deeper for districts and school leaders again to kind of support, what are some of those issues that they're going to be engaging around, the people, and how to go about doing that, and then providing resources to them. We did this with CCSSO, as you know, and NAACP, because they also had a desire to do something to support states in supporting their local districts in terms of implementing the requirements. In terms of what's next, where we see this, CCSSO and us will release this together Ideally, around the end of the month, that's our target, because we want to try to catch school districts and schools before the school year is officially out, and it's still valuable, so that they can do their planning over the summer. But from there, we are hoping to develop state-specific toolkits that are much more valuable, because as you see, this is national, this is broad. In order for this to be valuable in a state like Mississippi or in other states that we work in, we need to actually have information that speak to the requirements that are specific to the state plans, right? I know a lot of you, if not all of you, were involved in some of the ESSA plan discussions yesterday. So that is one of the efforts that we want to do. We work both inside out and outside in. So when I say that, I mean inside out. This is the perfect example of that, trying to support state and local systems in doing better around their engagement and around their requirements. Outside in, we're talking about trying to help build capacity in stakeholders to engage around the law as well. And I think that is another way that we see this kind of moving forward. And as Joyce said, we can talk more about it towards the end after we've gone through the actual feedback. But something that came up in our meeting from last week was the idea of maybe us thinking about, as a group, developing some sort of supplement that's really targeting the community, family, parent audience to support engagement. Because again, this is really focused on more so the school leader, a school and district leader. So that's all I just wanted to say to kind of set this up. Sophie has really been taking the lead on gathering all of the input and development, so she'll take us through, kind of do that section by section, page by page, description of kind of what the purpose was, how we got there, and then, you know, getting any and all feedback that you have on it. So Sophie, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Let me just quickly say, we've got a couple extra copies of things, so if anyone doesn't have a folder and wants a few, we have a couple prints. I know a couple people just sat down. Should I bring these over, just some extra copies?
You all okay with the copies?
Everybody got copies?
No, I
got
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Al, did you say you wanted one?
Yes.
Oh, great.
And I would like one too.
Great. Here's one. Sorry, it doesn't have a folder.
Thank you. This man gave
So now while Sophie's doing that, okay, so the things that have just been handed out for people that just came in the room, this document here was, this one is from NL, and I think NL is with Daquan's organization, right, Daquan? What Daquan's on?
No, that's the pack.
Okay. They said that they would look at it and send in their, you know, what they saw as some changes, okay? So we have that. What you see on the screen is Marlene sent in some track changes that she wanted to add. So based on our conversation last night, I think having this kind of input, plus what you all may have been able to do last night, you know, from yesterday evening to today, I think would give us a good starting point that we can go page by page and interject. So you have this hard copy. What we want to do is to follow this hard copy and the track changes that they've made, as well as have input in terms of what we want. Okay, so we're ready?
Do you think we maybe need to move the projector forward a little, make that bigger? How do you make it bigger so we can see it? I'm not sure. Well, there you go. That's the way to do it.
So let me just situate us in the process for a minute. We have met with a couple of different organizations over the last couple of weeks and gotten a lot of input. And so we, over the last 2 weeks and over the next week, are going to be inputting your feedback as well as a bunch of other groups. And what that means is, so far, a couple of things have changed, including some of this new content. Although I just want a big disclaimer that this content has not been reviewed or vetted by both CCSSO and Partners for Each and Every Child, so this is definitely draft content. But that's this. There's 2 additional issue briefs, we're calling them, one on technology in the classroom and one on advanced coursework. There's also a new part, this part 4, which covers needs assessments and resource allocation very broadly, and how to engage stakeholders in that process. And then there's also a glossary of terms, just that we're going to include in the back of the document as well. Other than that broad new content, everything has been sort of line edits, ads, so we're prepared to get that from you guys, as well as any kind of values or things that you want us to make sure we express in the document that better characterizes the work you guys are doing and the work that districts are doing all over.
Yes. For
those people in the room who may not be familiar with your organization and CCSSO, could you just kind of give us an overview?
Okay. I had asked them to wait till the end for that, but that's fine. If you all need it now, that's fine.
I think that would have to direct my
That's fine.
thinking
Sure,
and
sure.
to ask relevant questions.
Sure, that's fine. Go
Absolutely,
ahead.
no problem. So, Partners for Each and Every Child is essentially an outgrowth of the work of the Equity and Excellence Commission that Obama commissioned back in 2012. Some of you may be familiar, a report was released. This was a commission of bipartisan groups, policymakers, academics, researchers, civil rights organizations, on and on and on. And essentially, they were charged with coming up with recommendations for how we can look at closing achievement gaps in the system and opportunity gaps as well, and increasing student achievement. So they came out with these recommendations that were unanimous, but nothing ever happened from the report. And so some of the co-commissioners, including our lead, Christopher Edley, decided, let's create an organization that will be responsible for implementing whatever these recommendations might look like by developing a network, an extensive network of partners, people who are already in this space, both nationally and at the state level, who we can support in executing and advancing equity policy. Now for us, our whole mission is about achieving equity and excellence for each and every child. We do that by supporting the advancement of equity policy, right, more indirectly, whether that's joining coalitions or working with partners in different ways. But more directly, I think we can say that we focus a little bit more on advancing equity through process and looking at the process and using stakeholder engagement as kind of that lever to achieve equity, right? And so as I started to mention before, approaching that both inside out and outside in, and I think that that's what makes us unique from a lot of groups that will focus, like a CCSSO. Their whole focus and interest is in their members, right, who are state education agencies, and that is their angle and their work. Other folks focus more so on supporting advocacy organizations and others, unions, et cetera, in the states. We try to work on both sides to kind of support the state agency and now the local agency, as we see the requirements are really shifting and we're now turning our focus to locals, and that's why we're here and talking about this, to kind of look at, how are you setting up your systems for ongoing and meaningful engagement moving forward, right, in a continuous improvement way. What kind of frameworks are you using, and really trying to support that by developing, producing documents like this, hosting convenings, co-hosting convenings in states, and then we're also, as I've said before, working on the outside with a variety of different stakeholders to try to build capacity and understanding around different state ESSA plans. And again, so we've created, for example, reader's guides in some of the states that we work in, which literally are kind of like cliff notes for what's in those dense ESSA state plans that are hard to understand in most cases. So yes, does that give you a bit of a better understanding of kind of us and how we're approaching? And so CCSSO, at the national level, they're a group that we have worked with in the past. We tend to come in when they're having meetings, for example, with their states. And kind of come in
and
and
the acronym stands for
Chief Council of State School. Thank you. Of state school officers.
Right. So that's where our superintendents meet with that particular organization, and so yeah.
Right. So they kind of have the hold on and the ear of all of the state agencies. So we feel, we're happy to have CCSSO as a partner in this, recognizing that we do have some, different but overlapping interests. And so that's why I wanted to kind of set up the idea that we have always envisioned as an organization, with our interest in process and supporting the process, creating something that will support school leaders and districts in their ESSA implementation efforts. It ended up working out that CCSSO also wanted to create something, a handbook that would support their own state, because essentially state agency leads are like, okay, we're barely just getting through you know, developing and submitting our state plans. You need to tell us that we now have to support our districts in doing what they have to do. So that is where CCSSO's interest kind of came in. And for us, we're like, yeah, we need everyone, you know, we want everyone to be supported so we can ensure that there is equity here. And we did, we created a handbook actually similar to this for focus on state education leaders last year that was also used to help develop state plans. So this is kind of our interest, one of our many interests, but again, using that stakeholder engagement piece and just figuring out different ways to do that. So we're really happy and feel very fortunate to be able to be here today and to hear from you, because as we know, we say, oh yeah, it's all about making sure to get diverse voices to the table, but as we know in practice, that does not always happen. And so we feel very fortunate to be able to hear from you and would love to get any and all feedback. And as I said, because this is a very much an LEA and school leader focused audience for this particular handbook, thinking about the moving forward and what kind of supplement might be more appropriate and directed to community members, parents, and so on that can actually support this document as well. So we just look at taking in all the feedback and then kind of hearing from you, sharing back out after we've put stuff in there, and moving forward.
And so I guess one of my concerns, and maybe the folks in the room that have been a part of this, we met Partners for, I guess, a year and a half ago, that we tried this, we tried to do what we're doing now, and it just didn't work. A document was presented to us, just like this one is, presented to us in a manner in which we didn't feel like the integrity of us having any real input was there. So we just backed out of it, as a roundtable, ECHO, many of our organizations here. So that was really the problem with Partners for in this kind of relationship. When this document came up and came to our attention through Dignity in Schools campaign, where Liz, who is our federal strategist person from LDF, was telling us that she was meeting with you all, but it still wasn't us, so we still were not in the room. I just need to make sure that you understand and that we understand that this connection is still not being made. Now, we're seeing it today, and so that's why I say I appreciate where we are. But if we're still not being seen on the radar to be a part of these conversations, regardless of who the document is for, we need to be in the room, helping to develop it in a real way. We got to be there. We can't come in like this, because many people were very frustrated yesterday evening, but they were willing to give it and say, hey, look, we know the value of that's why they're here. But this is after the fact. I mean, all of this is written up, and I think that's the value of you all, is that you do have the capacity to develop. But if we don't get on the top of the invite list to be a part of the conversation on the development end of it, rather than just on the feedback end of it, that's really hard. So that's been my struggle with this. And when I was asking them not to do that, go through that, because I felt like the same thing would come out, is about what this process was, and we would feel frustrated about it because we weren't invited at any earlier point, based on what you said y'all role is, and that should be more inclusive. Yeah. So I do appreciate that. I think we're at that place, but if you still don't see the value of our role, not only you the individuals, but your organizations don't see the value of our role, that we are on the invite list, not the feedback list, but on the invite list, the participatory list of development. We saw a lot of folks on this contributor list that, to us have nothing to do with us.
Right.
And we didn't see us anywhere on there, and not even anybody. Because remember, even this was the meeting that we had with you was for our invitation. This meeting today, our invite. You know what I'm saying? So we got to have you all, somebody got to finally say, Andrew, we still, because we were like, okay, we can't do this. This is not going to work. This model does not work. And this can't be the model that we give to school districts, saying that it comes back after the fact. And that's why this document is so critical. If this is a handbook to tell them how to engage folks, then we got to first know how to do that, So really having said that, go ahead.
And before you move on, I think it's important, let me note that Dr. Wright, who's our state superintendent, is the president-elect for the CCSO.
Yeah, they just found out,
to note that.
And then because see, even with that, CCSO, is asking us, and I need to say that we did invite them as well, to come. But once again, this happened last week. And so for you all to shift y'all schedules around to get here, once again, I really appreciate it. So what I'm saying is critiquing, not criticizing, but critiquing, yeah. And I told you that's why I wanted to be like that, like you can handle it. But Peter with CCSO, and many of us have met with him around stuff in terms of developing this ESSA conversation. We've been in and out of conversations with him because even before we started this thing around the ESSA piece, he was meeting with us, telling us how we can engage and all of that. But he could not be here today, and what he said was he wanted to know from us, would we like to debrief with him after this? So we will set a time. Lizzo said that he definitely wants to debrief with us to talk about how this process worked, and if this is something that we wanted to support moving forward. Okay?
And Joyce,
yes.
I want to add to Diana's statement with Dr. Wright being the president of CCSSO. MDE has signed us on as being critical friends,
right.
And they partner with us, and so we want to see that partnership
yeah.
throughout the different pieces. If she's connected at that level, then we want to be connected with who she's connected with because she's already embraced us at the state level.
Yeah.
So that partnership and that continuance of that is important for us, but I think, also she's embracing that as well. So we just want to reflect that in every aspect.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's also important to lift up where do the opportunities lie for local organizations that are engaged in the work on the front line. And where do and I mean meaningful partnerships, not just our name appearing. It was very disturbing to me when I looked at this list of stakeholders, and they're simply, it does not reflect community, especially those communities that are being the most significantly impacted by the changes at the national level that are now trickling down to the to the district level, and in some instances to the school level. So I think it delivers a misconception of what community and parental and student engagement is really all about. And if we are not involved in that participatory process, then that element is going to be overshadowed and overlooked, because in many instances, the people in the community are at difference with the superintendent.
Yeah.
So it's really important to show, I mean, I think this is wonderful to show that there is a broad support of various different organizations that many of them may not even represent who we are.
Just to add to that, I mean, to me, I think we miss overall, education is for the children, and so they should always lead and it should be thought about in that factor, and it always surprises, well, doesn't surprise me, but it's always from the process of the schools, the administrators, and the teachers, which to me is totally backwards. So you should always have, and I would love to see us shifting that framework, that when you're talking about education, students, parents, community, and then everybody else follows. And I would love to be able to see that, because it's really a problem, especially in our state.
And so just one more framing piece that came out last night, since we are on this discussion now. The glossary, and Ashley had some changes. Is she coming back? Because she really had some things she wanted to do. Okay, she wanted to have some input. The glossary was something that Ashley mentioned last night, so we're glad to see that, and definitely we'll have some more input on that. But is Jeremy coming today? Diane, is Jeremy? Because one of the things he may have not, because one of the things that Jeremy talked about was the parent engagement component and the student, engagement, component. And I guess, this conversation is really critical to us. It's very important. I see the capacity that you all bring to the table, but with just capacity and not the content, like everybody's saying, it's no good. So we're just saying on the front end of this, we would love to see a couple more documents done, but we must be at the table to develop them, okay? Alrighty, so everybody's good?
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Ready to go.
I see you, I think those eyes that gear. Ah, you make me geared up. Okay, so that's good, we're good?
Thank
So
you, yes.
framing is great. Alrighty then, so what you have, once again, we've got Andel's piece where he's made changes, and they're by pages, and then we have a track document that Marlene has sent in, and then we have the document that you're gonna be working from in front of us, okay? So we can make it, we can move.
So we're gonna start, so we're gonna use, so just to be clear, are we going to use, would you like us to use the main document as the basis?
I think the basis should be the main document.
And then you'll just insert.
Yes.
Okay, the feedback as we go along. Okay,
Yes.
great.
Is that okay with everybody? The main document is what we'll work from, and then we'll interject the pieces that came in, and then the pieces that you all want to add at different spaces. Okay?
So there was one more big change that I forgot to mention that was requested, so I'd love your input on this as well. Parts 2 and 3 have been swapped. So
Okay,
it
you did.
starts with, you'll see in the new outline that you guys have that those two sections are flipped. That's the only thing. I also should say, or I think it's important to sort of note that CCSSO is a big organization with a lot of capacity. You are looking at 40 to 50% of partners for staff right now. So
Yeah, you notice that we have a lot of, we actually don't. It's very, very, so thank you for noticing that. I was trying to present a very strong front. I mean, we have done a lot, right? But if we don't, we do rely heavily on partnerships like those with CCSSO to really help build that up, because we are very slim as an organization, as most of our organizations are, right?
Okay.
Great, so why don't we just start
Okay,
in
so
with
on your
part
document,
one?
here's his part 1, and then Marlene, if you'll take us to hers, part 1, okay? And then we'll start with you, and we'll watch where changes may have occurred, because I think yours are in track change form, and just move it up like that.
I have an overarching piece of feedback versus the section.
Sure.
And that is the complete absence of the language of race. It says historical, it says underrepresented, it says everything but race, black, African American, all of the above. So our communities, particularly our local education agencies, like that. And we don't like to serve them that easily. So we have to identify who we are, what we're talking about, where they are.
And because that's what ESSA is all about. It was a war on poverty, it was black children, now the data speaks to black children. So we got to, make sure people know that. Okay? All right?
Great. So this first part, what we were hoping, this sort of came out of, this was actually one of the last parts that got written, and it came as a result of beginning with the issues that we wanted to kind of add some information about, and then we moved into some explicit engagement methods, but we wanted to situate it all in ESSA and specifically in the planning process at the school and district level. So just sort of overarchingly, that's what this section was aiming to do, was kind of situate the document in an explicit planning period over the next year or two, and iteratively.
So just let me know when to change and things like that. I'm listening, but just let me.
Great, absolutely, I will. All right, so that's sort of the only intro to this section. Do you want to just go one page by page? So let's go to the next page.
Let me ask them to do one thing. Ask Mom. Ashley said she had made some notes in her document until she gets back. If she has printed up something, she wrote in it, I think. Just pass it to Mom, and then she can just go back page and see, until she gets back. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, go ahead.
Great. So this first part was sort of saying not just local school improvement planning, but also sort of program planning and state systems that might impact districts. And then we tried to break out some district planning examples and some school planning examples. So any input on that piece? Welcome.
Well, the additional opportunity, when you go down to that.
Sure.
I didn't share this with anyone yesterday, but I started thinking about it last night. it would be, I think, and see what you guys think, it would be wonderful that there would be examples in every component of this. Thread through it, how you work with the community. Even here, as you're talking about naming and framing, or framing around the district planning, you can't start that without very specific, maybe you need to give ideas. Here's how you could, and go through it. Here's how you could. As you start framing, you need to bring these people into the conversation. And then a reminder everywhere how parent, in each one of these pieces, there's a parent piece, or there is a family piece.
And a student.
And a student piece, and it's never separate. It should be embedded, it's woven into every single piece of it.
Yes.
So, and then because my experience with school systems, at district and local level, they don't have a clue anytime. You have to give them the vision, and then they go, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, we've got those people in our neighborhood. Oh, we can do that.
And it's such a great point. I mean, it's a challenge of working with so many different groups, challenge and opportunity. We had actually started it that way. And the feeling was, and Sophie, correct me if I'm wrong, oh, this is getting so long and unwieldy. We literally had like, okay, and here's how you engage with parents, and here's how you engage with whatever, in each of the sections.
Go back
Do
to
you
that.
have an online document?
Pardon?
Do you have
an
online?
online document? So if it's not in the paper, it could be the online, and then you have the examples in there.
We have not yet determined how we're gonna do this, but that's a great idea, and I think we should, and I like your idea of having examples
Right,
explicitly
and
too.
you've got room in each one of those yellow boxes that you've got everywhere. That could be where you have your examples of every part of it.
So are you suggesting, my apologies for saying you.
Marika?
Marika, are you suggesting that if the concern is length, that what we might do is just put a link in there,
No.
see whatever for additional examples? Is that what you were saying? I just want to be
But
clear.
I would challenge you on that, though. I think it should be the reverse. I think the big document should be the big document. And then, because the people that were telling you that it's too long, they really are the ones that this is not even important to. It doesn't impact their work at all. When people start talking about length versus purpose and functions, then that's a problem. I would say the real document, and for the reason that Nita even brought it up, is that we don't put it in front of them, they won't even go to that. So this needs to be the real document. Now, if they need something shorter, that's fine. But this has to be the real document. And it's a document that it serves a purpose. So each chapter depends on what the need is. They're not going to be doing all of this simultaneously. But if you don't give them some direction and guide for the areas that they're trying to develop, then it's just going to be, once again, it's just going to be something on the table.
But I think one of the things that Nita brought up that we as community needs to actually understand is that no matter what work is done inside of schools will not be successful if it was not for parents and students.
Exactly.
And therefore, parents and students need to be valued.
That's right.
If you do not value us, then therefore we have, and some of us may not have any input in it. So no matter where we are or where we go inside of this document, parents and students needs to be there as well. Because even so, when we look at policy, they would have it in there, but it doesn't happen. Right. No, clearly, it doesn't happen. And then with the part of what Joyce is actually saying, it needs to be in because you all have a part in here for rule. My question even so yesterday, what rule are you talking about? Because when you look at our rural areas, some of our areas do not have, access to internet and all. So that's the reason that it needs to be inside, whereas they can read it. And I think it would be extremely helpful that when statement comes, it doesn't matter if it comes from our superintendent or our teachers. There always need to be a part for parents because some of our teachers and superintendents do not have the relationship with community in the way in which that relationship needs to be so that that relationship can evolve.
And can I just also say, in regards to like, I mean, we talk about excellence in education, but that to me means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So it's like, it seems that it's more about the end result, like the grades and like, you know, just this numbers thing. But when we're talking about public education, it's about developing, again, the whole child. And it's also about making sure that children are able to reach their full potential. And so that means to me that then you can't just, when a child exhibits challenges, that you don't then throw that child away. So, I mean, I'm wondering, like, I would love to see that permeate throughout the process, and even when you first, like, the whole point of public education, what's it all about, and the definition of that. We jump right in around, like, meaningful engagement and, you know, ESSA, but without framing it that we can't just go straight to something without remembering what it is, what's
So setting the tone more clearly up front and then throughout by way of examples, by way of actually calling out and highlighting, you know, here's how you would go about engaging.
Exactly.
With
So exactly, I mean, the name Every Student Succeeds Act should mean that every student should be able to succeed.
Right.
And that to me doesn't include pushing out kids from school, suspending them, expelling them, and being punitive. It means helping and making sure that every student succeeds.
I also hear in that, sorry,
For instance,
No, you need to.
No,
If you were responding to one to that, that's
well, like in each one of these yellow boxes, you know, you're talking about the consolidated plan. There should be, you know, parents and students need to be on the planning team. I mean, you can just do, you know, don't forget, and are there community engagement organizations in your community that need to be part of the team?
And are there stipends available to pay for their participation?
Oh, yes, that's another thing, yeah.
I do think we should lead with students and parents, whereas the students are receiving the education.
Yeah.
I also heard in what you said that this inclusivity of students, it sort of applies at the district and school level as well. There's a parallel there of, as things are challenging and as we're planning, bring people closer, bring people in sooner.
So I know we're starting with these sections, right?
Yeah.
But I'm starting with the executive summary because for me, some school districts may not even get further than the executive summary. Just keep it on the real. So inside of the executive summary, I was, you know, in terms of the principles and the steps, and it said internal team. We had talked yesterday around keeping your team informed. And so they were saying internal teams. And so my question was, do those internal teams only include those persons inside of the school districts? Or would those internal teams include organizational partners? So does that partner organization apply to organizational partners or folks inside of the school system that's going to be part of this internal team? Because I think that has to be identified.
So I think the point that was making here in terms of identifying an internal team, I understand what you're saying. Like, you know, you need to have some sort of group that you're constantly working with, and that is
this what they're saying?
That's not
what I'm
that.
asking.
This is,
because I know this is to school districts.
yeah, this is saying as a school district or as a state, because I know we put this in our handbook as well, bless you. Make sure that you have a very clearly identified team of people internally that is committed to working on engagement around these different issues. Because the problem that we see is that there doesn't tend to be, so it's more of a best practice as like an organizational best practice. That's what that meant, you know, make
So
sure
that's
that you
gonna
have
be
a dedicated
to
internal
the school
district.
system.
Yes,
To the school
that is
district itself.
dedicated to engage, you know, that is doing the planning around engagement, that is being held accountable for the engagement. That's what that point, I think, is supposed to.
So,
But, yeah.
Well, let's clarify on it. You want, okay, Marika and then Cameron, okay? Marika and Cameron. Oh, sure, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So, also somewhere inside of that, and I'm not sure if this is where it goes, but I think clearly school districts need to understand that they need to know their communities. And so inside, and I did see inside of some of the other places now, even though it hasn't been, for me, it's not very descriptive. Inside of knowing your community, that means there has to be some professional development around cultural competency, around culturally responsive schools, around all of those issues. And in some of those places you have to identify, which I think may be when you do state-specific manuals, but I think it still needs to identify African American students, whatever that group is, I think it needs to be called out. But I think definitely knowing your community, so I don't know where to put that inside of that, but that came from me, from that section. And the other thing is that I'm not sure what you, I think there was a word left out on the part 4, and it may be engagement.
There are a few places.
So I think it may be meaningful engagement.
I think so. Thank you for catching that. We definitely have to go back and do it. There are a few words with that.
Marika and then Cameron.
So, just to go back to what Diana was saying, it's not just about identifying that team, it's like posting it on the website saying this is the team, because we have teams in all of our districts and nobody knows who they are. But the other piece that I would like to see in this, and maybe for each part, on like that first page where it has it like this broken down, I think this is targeted towards larger districts. And so if you could break it up for like metropolitan, mid-size, then you have your charter schools, which are districts unto themselves. And so what does that translate into when you're looking at all these pieces? What does a team look like? What do those parts look like? Because I'm the leader of a small district. And this does not apply to a lot of what I'm trying to figure out how to do with ESSA. And so this does not speak to me.
Actually, New Jersey did a good job of that, breaking up the different types of districts, including single school districts or.
Yes.
New Jersey.
Cameron. Cameron.
Okay, this is just kind of piggybacking. I had that note in my book too from the last time when it comes under that planning section, and we're talking about the internal team. So when I'm reading that in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, whether it's the LEA or the school district, wherever level this is, who's coordinating this engagement. In my mind, I'm thinking, again, there's this disconnect. There's for example, there's this board of education that's saying, hey, we want to pick da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I think the language should reflect the engagement of stakeholders even at that level. There should be someone from the community, a parent, that is going to be a part of the conversation that helps identify identify others, a liaison. Something has to happen. It can't be this group and then we'll pick somebody, because once again,
insider.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. Are you distinguishing, so are you acknowledging, yes, an internal team needs to be created, fine, within the district? We also, though, still need to look at the composition of the external team that needs to be working with the external team, the internal team, and how that's all going to happen. And there should be some sort of liaison or whatever who's responsible for doing that. So if I'm here, I just want to make sure I'm not, so if I'm hearing you right, fine, internal team, but what you're acknowledging is we also need to have an external team that is connected to that internal team.
Not even just a team, like, so when you have, DSC, there's DSC, then we have DSC committee, and so, this committee is a part, these are the people who go out, plan, bring it back to the larger organization, right? So basically, I'm hearing internal team, I'm hearing in
It's
in
separate.
layman terms, a committee, you know what I'm saying, this subcommittee, this subgroup. And that subgroup from the internal team also needs to include
That's right, the internal team.
a liaison, a liaison, a stakeholder, you know, because again, that's the whole reason for the engagement, is to get a broader perspective versus an internalized perspective of what needs to happen. So you add an external person to that.
And I think what we saw is that a lot of the states, a number of states did that quite well in terms of setting up those structures, so maybe we need to model that for the local districts, exactly what you said, you know, so that it's clear, and they can kind of see, you know, oh, okay, this is how this can operate at the local level. Because we've seen it before, just not necessarily.
Right, and that's like a true collaboration.
Right. Yeah.
From the very beginning versus we got this idea, so now we're gonna bring the external teams in, and then you kinda have this thing.
Start over again. Okay, so the internal team should have the representation of parents, well, students and parents and stakeholders, you know, in the internal team that builds out the process with everybody's voice starting off the top. That's what we said. Okay, Brenda, and then Ramona, and who
No,
else?
I think,
Well, let me let you
Cameron said what I was gonna say, except for, in my mindset, I'm not thinking of like an external or a subcommittee. I think the internal team should automatically consist of this broader diversity and perspective that she's talking about. Because I think part of it is we have to change the mindset and the culture of the schools and the school system. So to do that, when we say internal team, automatically it should include the parents, the students. Some places got.
So the definition needs to be, inclusive and.
Yeah.
And so, clarifying, do you mean that then what is this external team? What is that? Are you saying?
No, I'm not. No, I'm going to take away an external team.
There you go.
That the internal team is part of the plan and process, and included as part of the internal team that's made up of the school officials is the parents, the broader community representation, the students, or whatever. Because that's changing the culture and the mindset of the school and the school system to see it as the internal.
Well,
maybe it's the school improvement.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, that should just be a name of it, rather than giving them the option thinking. Because if you give them internal option, they're gonna go to, then that means you got an external. So just call it that team. Whoever the team is that's gonna be working around engagement includes all of these players. So I think Janice, and I'm gonna come right back.
Okay,
Go ahead.
So you had a question?
I just have a clarifying question on that. So part of why we wanted to say internal team is because it had, at the state level, sometimes there was like kind of a relinquishing of responsibility without identifying specific internal staff that were gonna run it. And so there was actually a lack of accountability without identifying a couple of internal folks. So while I guess I'm wondering, how do we balance the need for kind of the buck stops with the district or school leader, in that you have to have somebody whose job it is to make sure this happens.
I think we can make that point, and then we can also say, but this internal team should be a broad.
Right.
Perfect. But yeah, I think we start with that point, however, this is what it should, and then kind of model that out. What that might look like.
Okay, I think Ramona and then Anita, and that's it. Well, let me do this now since we started. Janice want to just do some logistical things right quick in terms of checkout, your luggage if you want. And I think what she did was in those spaces where she used the yellow, there probably were questions more than anything. I'm not sure where she got there, developed a website presence. And I think part of hers is even in doing that, it goes back to what we say about the limited internet access, not making that the only way of doing it, or thinking that that's going to be the only way of doing this process. This part here clarify how feedback is used. Once again, what is that going to look like? And I think that's a question that even you all are putting there. I mean, wasn't that something you all put there? What did that mean? And maybe she's asking what it means. Clarify how feedback is used.
Yeah, so if you think of this as this is advice that's being given to a district leader, the suggestion is that as you are engaging with groups,
Okay.
make it clear and transparent how you actually took into account what the feedback was.
Okay.
So that's what that means.
And then the last one down here is communicate early and often. And I think we all totally agree with that and understand that. So that may be why she just highlighted it. Okay. But now let's go on. We can pick up. I think Nita, did you get a chance to ask your question? The last thing that you needed, or you had already done that? You're good.
That was 10 minutes ago.
I know. You know, I thought about it.
I'm sure it'll come to me again.
It will. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead then and pick up on page. What page are you on now?
So we sort of jumped around a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
Let me just call maybe the next page from here in the executive summary. Oh, I guess that's the end of the executive summary. So let's go back to part 1.
Wait a minute, on the executive summary, back up 1 minute. Because I don't, okay, go ahead. We good. We already went through that.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, because I left it when it got tea.
Come on back.
And then, again, I guess if we're looking at this from the framework of what we talked about, like one of the principles, the first principle should be about, remembering that, it should just be the principle about the children thing again, right? Like, and so even when you're talking about the checklist, and you're saying clarifying plan and clarify your goals, like your goals should be, this is about educating every child, it should be the goal, right? That should be the first goal, something in that regard. So, I don't know.
Yeah, somehow, because what I will say, please tell me your name.
Gina.
This piece was taken from the 5 principles that Partners for Each and Every Child had developed last year, and the 10, right? So what you're speaking to is something a lot deeper, which is like, we need to go back and really look at revising that. I'm wondering though, maybe there's a way, again, when you're talking about clarifying your goals and just figuring out all of the different points and opportunities to really highlight and go front and focus exactly the parent, student, community value, and holding that up as, priority more so than it is actually presented.
Right, and I haven't read through all of this, but I know, so when I'm writing a grant, for instance, and, and I might do work around all kind of stuff, but if the frame is a help frame, then that's gonna permeate through everything I say. And when I talk about stuff, I'm gonna be speaking from that perspective, right? And that's gonna be the main thing that I speak from throughout the way everything is articulated. It's about that frame.
And so where you start off in the executive summary, maybe a good place to do that is where you start out meaningful engagement.
Right.
It should be right there,
Before we even get to
before you even go any further.
Yeah.
It's about, it is about every
And then it should go through everything.
And then everywhere else, there should be, at the beginning somewhere, that should be tied in as a reminder. It's about the students.
Well, one of the things that it's not clear to me, or that I would like to have clarified, is who is the target of the engagement? Who is the target audience for the engagement? Is it superintendents? Is it the school officials? Or are you giving them direction or guidance on how to engage their parental, student, and community constituencies?
The latter, exactly. The latter. So parent, community, again, parent, community, family, guardians, but it's also educators, it's also, psychology, any number of groups. But yes, that's the latter that we're trying to do. We're trying to provide guidance on how to engage.
Oh, sorry, Brenda? Okay.
So piggyback off what Gina said, that also in the beginning may be a good place to talk about changing the culture and the nature of the relationships between schools and community. That maybe if you put it up front and talk about this is really transformational in the sense that we're trying to change the culture of how schools and school district thinks in relationship to parents, students, and community. So I'm just talking about a way to set the tone and to frame it.
Right.
Right, because that would shift that, to me, if they were thinking about that, that would have totally shifted the indicators, right? Because it's frustrating that the indicators are about holding us, everything I see from our state plan, it's about holding the children accountable. That's the way it feels when I look at it, right? It's like, well, you know, and all of the stuff we do, like this, the codes of conduct, it's like holding the children accountable, but when the schools make an error, there's no accountability.
Exactly.
And so to me, what message are we really sending the kids? It's not about them, and it's not, but it should be.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
I think there's a healing piece that needs to be there somewhere, because what happens is that you take so from my experience of a lot of my people I went to school with, their children are coming along, and I remember their experience at school. So if you say, well, send a letter home, say, I want to have a parent meeting because of such and such and such and such. The focus is not on the child, but it's on the fact of, when I was here, I didn't have a quality teacher that was here, and my experience is overriding my child's experience. So it needs to be some piece that's it's spelled out to where we're able to, before all this happens, we're able to have a conversation to say, all right, you are, or you should be at this table. The value of the parent is not looked at, and saying that, because a lot of times they look, well, here's someone that has a degree, or here's someone that has this, and I don't bring that to the table. So no matter what you put down on the paper, no matter what you put out there, I don't feel valued or empowered as a parent to come to the table. So even if you have some advocate that's there, somewhere in there, that parent needs a uplifting or something there to help that parent come to the table. And not just have that may be, steps you take, the advocate is there, but that parent needs to be empowered in some way, somewhere in there, because they're not thinking about the child, they're thinking about their experience.
Okay, Brenda, and then
I just love that. I just want to make this one comment. And we put that in simplistic terms to make sure we include those parents, just what you just talked about. And we call it making sure school system understand and value everyday moms and dads in decision-making processes around education policy and around their children's education. And sometimes we have to speak to it just that simple. Everyday moms and dads. All of them not going to come with a bachelor, master's degree, or a doctorate degree. Yeah. But every mother and father is an everyday mother and father. And so, yeah, and you have to be able to value that. Yeah, so I just love that comment. Yeah.
Well, I don't think the issue is, I think first of all, I think it's the school's responsibility to make them feel welcome. And I think that's one of the biggest differences. Having taught in North Carolina and having taught in Mississippi, there is a big difference in how parents are welcomed into the school. And I found that when I was in North Carolina, I had a room parent who came and helped with centers, who, parents were they were a part of the educational process, whereas when I came back to Mississippi, it was kind of like, you set up an appointment, and I do agree teachers kind of do want to know so they can plan accordingly if they need to see you, but in terms of them being a part of being able to come in the classroom, and it's just more standoffish in Mississippi to me with the parents and how things are set up.
And thanks for sharing that, because they're both educators, and what Nikki brings is a perspective that came from a district that's done totally different from Mississippi in terms of what engagement can be, because you're right, for now, they're telling parents they can't even come in the room without letting you know. But then in Carolina, I'm sure they still doing what you're talking about. They're letting them come in and stuff. So even as we talk about this engagement piece, what Brenda said is transformational for Mississippi. Now, it may not be, like you said, when y'all do state by state, but I still think with ESSA, we want to make sure that even Carolina don't step back, and start doing things differently. Okay, so if we've done these pages, then let's move to the next piece of it and see where we go. Okay, part one. Excuse me. Homeless and foster care advocates. Anybody can think of anything else they want to add to that one?
Yeah, I think for community-based organizations, I specifically say about that focuses on youth and parents or families.
And I would say we have faith-based organizations. We have.
And that was what I was looking for. Did you all have faith-based anywhere?
Yes, it's on outside organizations, business community.
There it is over that column, okay?
I think under,
Go ahead, Cameron.
under educators, higher,
Yes.
higher education / like teachers, so professors who are in the College of Education.
Because somewhere in here, and I don't know who changes I saw, either with Marlene or with Ansel, where they're talking about how do you utilize those folks as well to be a part of the conversation. Because in building capacity, you got interns from colleges and universities, even with the critical teacher shortage component that many of us experiences. Now they're even talking about how do you get university teachers to come in and teach classes. Schedule it, so thank you for bringing that back up.
And also on the teacher certification program, can we look at what that looks like? Because, I mean, again, you get to certification programs like TFA, which I don't think should be applicable. Because, you know what I mean? So I don't know what we could use in terms of that, but I don't think it's fair to believe that just because somebody graduates from an Ivy League or a top college and some irrelevant, that they can actually teach a class. So maybe is there a teaching certification program that focuses on or has some component of classroom management, childhood development, trainings and stuff like that, and specify that.
So now, where would that go inside of here, though?
Was on the teacher certification.
Just to break out what that really means.
What it means, okay. Brenda,
But I think that you're
then,
also.
who else hand? Was your hand? Okay, Nita, then Ashley. Go ahead, Brenda, Nita, Ashley.
So under elected official, the most powerful government body in any county is the Board of Supervisors. All the money that comes to a county comes through the Board of Supervisors, so I think they should be identified under elected officials.
Of which one you said, Brenda?
Under elected officials, they're the most powerful people in any county.
Yep.
So maybe what you can do, because some counties have council members instead of boards of supervisors.
Well, they have them, but like we have a municipal school district, so ours is the city. Yeah.
Council / supervisor.
Would you say, Ms. Ramon,
No,
because you
they
have
should be
Board of
they should be
Supervisors?
separate.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's fine.
In Mississippi, they have board of supervisors, but in some states, the county, they're not their superintendents or
Commissioners.
their commissioners or their executives. They are freeloaders.
But even in terms of what you just said,
It should be.
Ramona, it shouldn't go on city, what is that, city county?
They got city
County council members.
That's right.
And which is right.
Yeah.
Yeah, guess it could stay like that, yeah. Yeah,
But for the most part.
yeah.
So you don't want them to spell out Board of Supervisors?
No, because I didn't even see the county part in that.
Okay.
But yeah, because either they supervisor or commissioner.
Okay, Nita and then Ashley. Okay, thank you.
The paragraph, the bullets, parents, families, and communities, that whole piece.
Where is that one?
Yeah,
Under
it's at
what?
the bottom, at the bottom.
Okay,
It needs
parent,
to be-
families, and communities?
It needs to be moved up under educators.
Okay.
That should be number 2.
Okay, very good. Parent, families, and communities at the very bottom, in the right side of the column.
Yes, that should be the first one.
Yeah.
I agree.
And anything that need to be added to that. Now, for the early learning, for local agencies, Ansel is saying we need to add to that one homeless shelters. Wow, okay.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Definitely, yeah.
A homeless provider.
Okay, Anita, I'm sorry, I go to Ashley and then come back to Betty, I'm sorry.
One of the local government, agencies and government bodies that I saw wasn't listed was the local sheriff's departments and police
Okay.
departments.
Now, where is that, and which one?
You're right, agency and governmental bodies.
Okay.
And then just under local agencies, security service providers. A lot of times we do this and we don't necessarily think about those school resource officers, and some are privately owned people that are in those buildings that provide security, and some actually come from the local police departments and sheriff's departments. And they have a really big impact on what happens inside of those buildings. But they're never at the table with educators and parents, so they really need to be involved inside this space.
And so you see a couple of places there. Okay, Betty?
I think, and I'm not sure yet of where I think that it should go, but I think that I'm not overlooking. I think that there needs to be churches engaged in this process as well.
Now, what is it, outside organizations, it is, the outside organizations, business and community, we got the faith-based organizations.
Okay, then.
Yeah, so we need to just make sure that that gets lifted up, though, that we are talking about churches. Okay?
So, I'm not sure, I didn't see it, I saw like school personnel including social, emotional support staff, but psychologists and social workers.
Which part are you on, Diane?
It needs to be on there.
Yeah, it needs to be on there.
Which one are you on?
We were jumping, so I don't see it, I haven't seen it.
See, she hadn't seen it yet, so she's asking if it's there.
For associations, and mine can go under there.
Yeah.
On even under that higher ed certification and research.
Yeah.
I can go there.
Maybe there's healthcare, maybe there's a whole new thing of healthcare.
Well, under the local agencies, they got mental and physical health providers, but that's clinics, teachers, consultants, trauma informed. But you want to spell it out.
Yeah, we gotta spell out psychologists and social workers.
Okay.
We really need to spell those out.
So you can find out where to put it, okay? But yeah, we want to definitely have that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about years ago when the psychologists in Mississippi tried to pass a law.
Well, they have an association
that-
here.
That
They
to
do
have
have
a
one.
psychology wasn't there.
Right. Okay, Gina? Oh, I didn't see down here. Rachel, did I need? Okay, Rachel did. Gina did, Rachel, right.
Yeah, and I guess, when we're talking about, I guess, again, community-based organization focuses, what is it, the English, ESL, English is a second language, organizations and LGBTQ organizations. And then, okay, this is just a bias, I guess, that I have, but then under the civil rights organizations, they have local affiliates, and then you got listed urban leading.
I know. Yeah, I noticed that too.
But see, you gotta understand it, so tell us what we need. No, I'm agreeing
Well,
with
then
you.
if we're gonna do that, then is a civil rights organization or
Well,
advancement
for
project?
Mississippi, you gotta do NAACP.
NAACP,
That would be,
right.
I mean,
You know, I'm just saying, we're gonna list.
may not have ever heard of Urban League, I'm being
Well, you
serious.
don't have an urban
Me
league.
too.
But they heard
Jackson,
of,
right?
huh?
They don't, there's no longer an urban league in
Well, that's what
Jackson.
I'm
Well, it's a
Well, I'm
national
saying, so they
urban
put
league
it out.
though, but then, and we,
But we don't have one in Jackson.
well, then I guess the local NAACP although.
But NAACP.
Well, I mean, I have,
But I would-
what I'm saying.
I would
that's
at
what they're
least-
familiar with.
Right, or NAACP, I would add, I
I mean,
would
you
come
can't
there.
have a civil rights organization without the NAACP.
Right.
Well, what about the
Even more so than the
ACLU
urban
or,
league.
you know, I think we got to look at what we do have and putting it out there, you know, to make this list, so inclusive, exactly, and not limited.
But the advancement project,
Well, that's,
those are
that's
civil rights
national.
organizations.
And I
So
would
they were
say
saying
civil
local.
rights / human rights organizations.
Yes,
Organizations.
/ human rights organizations, yeah.
I mean, I see it as being synonymous.
I do too, but
Y'all want to introduce racial healing organizations?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, let's put that down there, yeah. 'Cause you
Actually,
got-
list that.
Yeah, yeah, we
I
need
mean,
to, under
say
that
racial
right there,
healing.
racial healing organizations, yeah.
She looking at me.
Yeah, no, I'm looking
I didn't mean for the next list, I was doing that.
No, because it brings it back to your point from earlier about the fact that race is not.
Right.
And we can't assume anything in this document in terms of how much districts really know how to do this. So we do need to do a fair amount of like spoon feeding, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, yes, if you have organizations to call out, let's definitely get
Let's
those.
put them on
I
there.
think And this kind of goes back to meters. We do need a whole section that addresses the emotional healing health aspect of, you know, as a subgroup, and that will go under that. Psychologists will go under that. Social workers will go under that. Juvenile justice system.
Do we have the juvenile justice system listed here in terms of being at the table as well? You know?
That would go under local agencies, youth courts.
Okay, it's there already, you see it?
No, it's not.
Okay, tell them where it goes in.
Local agencies.
Okay, local agencies, okay.
Or either agencies and government bodies. It would be youth courts.
What was the?
Youth court system, I think.
Youth court.
Juvenile justice, youth court.
Okay.
And the reason we're saying, because that's where the children are ending up.
Oh, yeah,
right?
no, I don't disagree.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we actually had that on here.
Right, and you may have maybe ended up falling off.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did get feedback that we needed to include a whole header that says student and youth organizations or student and youth and include those underneath. So we were
that's a
planning to
really
do
good
that.
Okay.
It was a big blank. I mean, we should have had that to start.
And that should be number 3 on the
Yeah.
bullets.
Your priority.
Your priority. You should have
We're gonna turn this all around.
That should be number 1.
I mean,
They got you,
we're gonna go back to, like, I think it should be the first thing. Like, the teachers, I mean, the educators are there to educate the kids. I still think the children should always be at the top.
Well, that's okay.
Because then we're gonna set the precedence that it's about the children.
Yeah.
They are on top. Okay.
And under civil rights organizations, I think we should include fair housing organizations.
Okay, sorry.
Fair housing.
Oh, I see.
Fair organizations.
Okay, Rachel was in the queue.
Don't know what it's called in other states, but for Mississippi, the planning and development districts, those agencies should be added to, I guess, the local, I don't know if it's local agencies. They're not a governmental body, although they handle federal funds, the job, JTPA and CBDG funds and LIHEAP, weatherization, all of those pieces. And so they should be on here somewhere.
Can you repeat how you would characterize, Rachel, how you would characterize what that group is?
I think it's local agencies. They also
What was
handle.
the name?
What is
What was the name?
I'm sorry. Planning and development districts. Ours for this area is called Central Mississippi Planning and Development District. Then we got a North Mississippi.
Yeah.
And
Delta.
such.
Okay.
So the counties are divided into different districts, and the federal funds for those programs, some come from the Board of Supervisors, some come straight from the feds. They distribute for those programs to community.
They're called MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organizations.
Yeah, it's so fun. This is a totally random thought we need to carry on, but when we were sitting at the bar last night at the restaurant, a guy was chatting us up, and he literally worked for whatever the equivalent is here in Mississippi. And was explaining, the whole CDPG. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Okay, now from Ansel's list, we have early learning leaders. Under that one, inclusion of students. Early learning leaders, oh my, yeah. Okay, and then under philanthropy, local United Ways and local and state universities.
So you would put United Way under philanthropy?
Yeah.
I see it somewhere else, but it wasn't as business.
Yeah, because we partner with them, but I guess we don't, we tend to group them under.
Under what?
Exactly.
I think philanthropy makes sense though.
Because they have
you
the
can put them in
funds.
both. They do
The
have
biggest
funds.
program is giving.
That's right, but they don't give to our public schools in our area, or they do a very small, yes, they really, they're not even considered, I think, when they think about who they can reach out to.
Yeah.
It's the culture, it goes back to the race issue, because this United Way is usually white oriented, and our public school is 99% black, so then you do not get the same support. And I wouldn't doubt if the private schools get that support,
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's just what I see. But the bottom line is the way that people see it and think about it, okay?
Yeah. They don't do it in Minnesota either.
Right, so local, and he also said local and state universities is another place for philanthropy is to look at them in that area because they do have resources that they can share in the areas. Okay, now, but I want to go back. Did anybody see anything else under early learning leaders? We got Head Start, we got community and faith-based preschool providers, center-based child care providers, home-based child care providers, local early childhood collaboratives, home visiting programs. Then you got Title I Part C providers for migrant youth. Okay, and he's just said add inclusion of students. Okay, all right. Higher ed, certification and research. Under this one, he has accreditation. I mean, we have here accreditation institutions. Okay, go ahead.
On the early learners, can we add WIC providers and SNAP to the?
Okay. Okay.
What was the first thing you said?
WIC.
Up under which one?
Early learning leaders and SNAP program.
They see everything.
Those community foundations, corporate foundations.
Back under what? Okay, when we come to philanthropy. Okay, go back over to philanthropy. Say it again.
Community foundations, corporate foundations, and family foundations.
And so that goes in our states like Dollar General. Most of the time, they don't even know who provides, money or have to in communities, So definitely. Anything else under philanthropy? Local, state, and national level foundations or collaborative organizations with interest in school, districts, or policy-based funding. And she just said adding there what you just said. You got it right. What you got? Okay, so let's go back up again to say it again.
Are there professional associations on the list?
Professional associations?
Yes, it's professional leadership and association.
Right above the,
Second one.
No, I'm looking at it, I'm just.
where do you put sororities? Your sororities.
And see, that's what I'm trying to figure out as well when we get is our local sororities, social and civic organizations that include sororities and fraternities. Where would we want to put that under before we move any further? Let's find a place for them. Okay, sounds good. I think so.
Under higher ed, I would also put community or continuing ed.
And under agencies, we may want to put in local WIBs, workforce investment boards.
Okay, so in the professional leadership and association, we're adding social and civic organizations, including, sororities and fraternities. Okay, you got what she just said, right? Okay. Okay, let's see, higher ed, we got that one. Okay, professional leadership association, we got school business officials, school administrators, principals and superintendents, management alliances. Now I wonder, where do we decide to put the psychologists and all of that?
I think it's going to be its own new category.
You want a new category? Good. Okay, we're good.
But I think it also could just fall under professional leadership and associations because they have the psychological, the social worker, all of those associations.
That's true.
Where did you say social and civic?
Organizations to go under professional leadership and associations.
I feel like that should be
its own.
Yeah, either its own or under outside organizations. When I think of, when I think of myself, I don't think of myself, I think of it as a professional.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's social and civic organizations.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
Or its own category. I feel like so much.
If you did
I think it would leave it here. Yeah, under social, under
professional / leadership / associate or something like that, so it's and or.
I think it's how you read it, because some people are reading it professional leadership and associations by itself,
right?
As opposed to professional leadership and professional associations.
Under
Or
elected
leadership
officials.
association.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brenda,
So
and then
in
I'll
our
come back.
state, governors are the ones that sign off on the plan, so elected officials, did you put governors in there?
Local.
We were trying to focus local, but there's no reason not to.
No, not in our
For you,
case, yeah.
yes.
Because see, what you're developing, remember, these are teams that are being developed locally, so having your governor, and I doubt if any of our communities have governor representatives in them.
Is
You
that
know,
what you're saying
so-
you have?
Well, we have our governor representatives, our state and national representatives that have been part of the accountability planning process. At
On the state level, but we're on the local level. This is
But I
really-
mean, it's for local work.
Board of Education,
I'm sorry.
pushing that charge.
It's all right.
Yeah, no, that works.
Okay. Brenda, and then I'll come back to Ramona.
What about the economic councils and chambers of commerce?
Exactly, yeah. Economic councils and chamber of commerce under the, which one, professional, which one is that?
Well, they can go
DSC?
on the businesses, they
Down
can go
here.
on the
Okay,
other agencies of.
right. You got it? Okay, but I was going back to you, Nikki. You were saying that professional leadership and associations, and you were saying, and I don't know how they were looking
Yeah,
at it.
whoever wrote it, maybe what they meant by.
Right. And Nita, you were saying something, the reason that you thought it should go under that.
You could just do a slash, it could be professional leaderships, associations.
And associations? Okay. And I think they were just, you all were just looking at it, professional leadership.
That type.
So I just think so many places.
And
And
in
professional
Mississippi-
associations.
Exactly, that's the way.
Yeah,
they
that's
wrote
what
it.
we,
Right,
yeah, that's what the section
Yeah, that's what they meant by the term.
meant. That's why I would, right.
And I would agree maybe with outside organizations, I think that's where it probably is.
Okay,
the city.
that's fine.
So
Okay.
also under educators,
Okay.
I would identify groups that are organized like a union, but are not the local union
Right.
chapters.
Mm.
So we
Most of
have
us don't
Teachers
have.
United, we have, there's E4E, I don't know locally, like who all
Right.
has those.
Education groups or something like that?
Well,
or-
they consider themselves like
Union,
an alternative
no.
union.
Yeah, they're like labor groups or worker rights, you know.
No, these are
separate.
teachers that have found that their union does not reflect or represent the interests of what they need as educators, so they have grouped together to kind of provide an alternative, so they bring teachers together.
Mhm. And that makes them look for it. This will make them look for those kinds of
Yes,
groups.
exactly.
So they are out there in some places.
I mean, they're in our planning process, they're on the accountability teams, we're just gonna see.
What did you call them again? What were the?
Alternative union gathering spaces, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay, go ahead, Ramona.
Public health agencies.
What now? Public health? Yeah,
Agencies.
Health and Human Service.
yeah, health and human services, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Let's see, we have mental health.
Okay, philanthropy, we went through that one already. Mayor, elected officials, we've gone through that one. Agencies and governmental bodies, representative from Indian tribes, First Nations, housing, health and human services is here, and charter management operators, CMOs. Okay, and I think we mentioned some other, that you may have placed on the list somewhere else. Okay, outside agencies, well, let me go back to agencies and government bodies. Once again, place foster care services in that, under that one. Mhm.
That's where you,
And you got Department of Health and Human Services already.
and juvenile justice, we said it would go.
Yeah, we got to
there.
figure out what, you found out where to put that, or that's on a whole nother, we said we're gonna do double
That's
one
a
of
whole
that.
other one.
So you-
Pity.
That ain't mine.
Let it go.
Okay. Oh, so, but you got it down.